Hello, everyone. Today, I want to tell you a special story about my journey to learning English. It wasn't an easy road, but it taught me so much about hard work, patience, and the power of never giving up. When I was younger, I didn't speak English at all. I lived in a small town where most people spoke only our native language. But I always dreamed of learning English. Do you know why? Because English is the language of opportunities. I wanted to travel, meet people from different countries, and watch movies without subtitles. I wanted to understand the songs I loved, and most importantly, have better career opportunities. However, learning English felt very hard in the beginning. I didn't know how to start. I could understand a few words here and there, but speaking? Oh, that was the most difficult part. Whenever I tried to speak, I would get nervous. My mind would go blank, and I couldn't remember the words. I also worried about making mistakes. What if people laughed at me? What if they didn't understand me? These thoughts made me feel shy and scared. Sometimes I would practice a sentence in my head many times, but when it was time to speak, I couldn't say it. Another problem was vocabulary. I didn't know enough words to express my thoughts. I wanted to say, I am feeling excited about learning English, but all I could say was, I am happy. I felt like my ideas were trapped because I didn't have the right words to say them. Listening to English was also hard. People spoke so fast. I could only catch a word here and there. When I watched movies, it felt like the characters were speaking another language entirely. I would look at the subtitles more than the actual scenes. All these struggles made me feel like giving up. I thought, maybe I'm not smart enough to learn English. Maybe this is too hard for me. But deep down, I knew I couldn't quit. I remembered my dreams, traveling, making friends around the world, and building a better future. Those dreams kept me going. So, I decided to change my mindset. I told myself, learning English will take time, but I can do it if I keep trying. And that's how my journey began. Key steps to fluency in English. Let me now take you through the steps that helped me become fluent in English. Each step was important, and together, they made my learning experience fun, effective, and life-changing. 1. Starting small, watching movies and listening to songs in English. When I first started learning English, I knew I had to immerse myself in the language. But where to begin? I didn't have the confidence to speak, and reading big books seemed overwhelming. So, I decided to start small by watching English movies and listening to English songs. At first, I chose movies with subtitles. I remember watching simple, family-friendly movies where the language was not too complicated. I would listen to the characters speak and read the subtitles at the same time. This helped me connect the words I was hearing to their meanings. Sometimes I paused the movie to write down new words or phrases. For example, I learned expressions like, "How's it going?" and "Take care," just by hearing them repeatedly in movies. Songs were another great tool. I started listening to slow and clear songs, like those by famous artists who used simple lyrics. I would play the same song many times, trying to understand the words. I even printed the lyrics and sang along. This not only improved my vocabulary, but also helped me with pronunciation and rhythm. Over time, I moved on to more challenging movies and songs. I stopped relying on subtitles so much, and I started understanding sentences just by listening. Watching movies and listening to songs made learning enjoyable, and it didn't feel like studying at all. 2. Practicing daily. Speaking to myself and practicing simple sentences. The next step was to practice speaking every day. This was the hardest part for me because I didn't have anyone to practice with at first. So I started talking to myself in English. I would describe my day in simple sentences. For example, in the morning, I would say, "I am waking up now. I will brush my teeth." While cooking, I would say, "I am cutting vegetables. I am making lunch." This may sound silly, but it worked. Speaking out loud helped me get used to forming sentences in English. I also practiced in front of a mirror. I would pretend to have a conversation, asking myself questions like, "How are you today?" and answering, "I am fine, thank you. How about you?" This made me feel less nervous about speaking. Another method I used was repeating sentences I heard in movies or songs. If a character in a movie said, "Can you help me?" I would pause and repeat it several times. This helped me improve my pronunciation and confidence. Every day, I made sure to practice at least 10 to 15 minutes. It wasn't much, but over time, it made a big difference. 3. Finding a partner. Practicing with a friend or partner. After gaining some confidence, I realized that I needed real conversations to improve further. Luckily, I found a friend who was also learning English. We decided to practice together. At first, our conversations were very basic. We would say things like, "What is your favorite food?" or "What did you do today?" It didn't matter that our sentences weren't perfect. What mattered was that we were speaking English. Practicing with a partner helped me in many ways. It taught me how to listen and respond in real time. Sometimes I didn't understand what my friend said, so I would ask, "Can you repeat that?" Or, "What does that mean?" These small interactions helped me learn new words and phrases. We also corrected each other's mistakes. If I said, "She go to school," my friend would gently correct me, "No, it's she goes to school." This was very helpful because I could learn grammar naturally through conversation. Our practice sessions were not always formal. Sometimes we played games like asking riddles or describing things in English. These fun activities kept us motivated and made learning less stressful. 4. Joining a group, speaking in a small group or class. As my confidence grew, I decided to join an English-speaking group at a local community center. This was a big step for me because it meant speaking in front of several people. The group met once a week, and we discussed different topics like hobbies, travel, and daily routines. At first, I felt nervous and made many mistakes, but everyone in the group was very supportive. They encouraged me to keep trying, even when I struggled. Speaking in a group taught me how to interact with different people. I learned to ask questions, share my opinions, and even tell short stories in English. This was very exciting because I felt like I was using English in a real way. The group also helped me improve my listening skills. When others spoke, I tried to understand their accents and learn new phrases from them. It was like being in a small, English-speaking world where everyone helped each other. 5. Learning from mistakes. Embracing mistakes as part of learning. One of the most important lessons I learned on my journey was to embrace mistakes. In the beginning, I was very afraid of making mistakes. I thought people would laugh at me or think I wasn't smart. But over time, I realized that mistakes are just steps toward improvement. For example, once I said, "I am boring," instead of "I am bored." My friend laughed and explained the difference. I felt a little embarrassed, but I never forgot that lesson. From then on, I reminded myself that it's okay to make mistakes because they help you learn faster. Another time, I mispronounced a word in front of the group. Instead of feeling bad, I asked them how to say it correctly. They taught me, and I practiced until I got it right. Mistakes also taught me to laugh at myself and stay positive. If I said something wrong, I would say, "Oops, let me try again." This attitude made learning more enjoyable and less stressful. Putting it all together, each of these steps, starting small, practicing daily, finding a partner, joining a group, and learning from mistakes, played a big role in my journey to fluency. None of them worked overnight, but together they helped me improve little by little. The key was consistency. I didn't skip a single day of practice, even if it was just for a few minutes. I also kept reminding myself that learning a language takes time and effort, but the results are worth it. Now, when I look back, I feel proud of how far I've come. If I can do it, so can you. Remember, fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being confident and enjoying the process of learning. Keep practicing, and you'll get there. Learning English wasn't an easy journey for me. There were so many moments when I felt frustrated, discouraged, and even doubtful about my ability to succeed. I want to share these challenges with you because I believe every learner faces them in some way. And most importantly, I want to tell you how I overcame them. In the beginning, I struggled to understand even the simplest English words and sentences. I remember trying to watch an English movie without subtitles for the first time. I was so excited, but after a few minutes, my excitement turned into frustration. The characters spoke too fast, and I couldn't follow what was happening. It felt like they were speaking an entirely different language. The same thing happened with songs. I loved listening to English songs, but I could only pick out one or two words from an entire verse. This made me feel so small, like I would never be able to understand real English. I even thought, maybe English is just too difficult for me. But instead of giving up, I reminded myself why I started. I wanted to travel, meet people, and grow as a person. So I decided to take it step by step. I went back to watching movies with subtitles and listening to slower songs. I realized it was okay not to understand everything right away. Every time I understood even one new word, I celebrated it. Slowly, my understanding improved, and my frustration started to fade. Another major challenge was my fear of making mistakes. Every time I opened my mouth to speak English, I felt nervous. What if I say the wrong word? What if people laugh at me? These thoughts held me back from practicing. I remember one embarrassing moment clearly. I was talking to someone and I accidentally said, "I am boring," instead of "I am bored." The person laughed and corrected me, but I felt so embarrassed that I wanted to stop speaking altogether. This fear made me silent for a long time. I avoided speaking in English, even though I knew I needed the practice. But one day, I realized something important. Everyone makes mistakes when they learn something new. I thought about how I learned my native language as a child. Did I speak perfectly from the beginning? Of course not. I made mistakes, but I learned from them. So I decided to change my mindset. Instead of being afraid of mistakes, I started to see them as opportunities to learn. If I said something wrong, I would laugh along with others and say, "Thank you for correcting me." This attitude made me more relaxed and confident. Pronunciation was another big challenge for me. Some English sounds were very different from the sounds in my native language. For example, I had trouble with the T sound in words like think and thank. No matter how hard I tried, it always sounded wrong. I also struggled with stress and intonation. English has a natural rhythm that I wasn't used to. Sometimes, even when I said the right words, people had trouble understanding me because of my pronunciation. This made me feel like I wasn't making any progress. To improve, I started practicing pronunciation every day. I listened carefully to how native speakers said words and tried to copy them. I also recorded myself speaking and compared it to the correct pronunciation. It was hard at first, but with time, I started to notice small improvements. One thing that helped me a lot was tongue twisters. They were fun to practice and helped me with tricky sounds. For example, I practiced saying, "She sells seashells by the seashore," and it made my pronunciation clearer. There were times when I felt like giving up. Learning English seemed like climbing a never-ending mountain. No matter how much effort I put in, I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I thought, maybe I'm just not good at learning languages. Maybe this is not for me. One of the hardest moments was when I tried to have a conversation with a fluent English speaker. I couldn't keep up, and I felt so embarrassed. I thought to myself, how will I ever be fluent if I can't even have a simple conversation? But then I realized something important. Progress takes time. I remembered a story about bamboo trees. When you plant a bamboo seed, nothing happens for the first few years. But during this time, the roots are growing underground, and then suddenly the bamboo shoots up, growing tall and strong. I realized that my learning was like those bamboo roots. Even though I couldn't see big progress, I was building a strong foundation. This thought gave me hope and kept me moving forward. So how did I overcome all these challenges? The answer is simple. I didn't give up. I kept reminding myself why I started learning English in the first place. I focused on my dreams and goals, and I used them as motivation. I also learned to be kind to myself. Instead of getting upset about my mistakes, I celebrated my small victories. If I learned a new word or completed a short conversation, I told myself, "You're doing great." Another thing that helped was having a supportive environment. My friends and family encouraged me to keep going, and my practice partners were patient and kind. They reminded me that every learner faces challenges and that it's okay to struggle. Finally, I learned to enjoy the process. I started to see learning English not as a task, but as an adventure. Every new word, every successful conversation, and even every mistake was a step closer to my goal. If you're feeling frustrated or doubtful about learning English, remember that you're not alone. Every learner faces challenges, but the key is to keep going. Take it one step at a time, be patient with yourself, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Most importantly, believe in yourself. If I can overcome these challenges, so can you. Keep practicing, and one day you'll look back and feel proud of how far you've come. After months and even years of consistent effort, practice, and determination, the day finally came when I realized I was fluent in English. It wasn't a sudden realization. Instead, it came gradually, like the rising of the sun, spreading light and warmth over every corner of my life. Let me take you on this journey of success, step by step, so you can understand how much this achievement meant to me and how it transformed my life completely. One of the first signs of fluency was during a casual conversation with a friend. I was speaking in English, and I suddenly noticed that I wasn't translating from my native language in my head anymore. The words flowed naturally, and I wasn't struggling to find the right expressions. For the first time, I felt free while speaking English. I remember the exact moment when my friend said, "Wow, your English has improved so much. You sound so confident." Hearing those words filled me with pride and joy. I realized that all the hard work I had put into learning English was finally paying off. Another small but powerful moment was when I ordered food at a restaurant in English. In the past, I would feel nervous and rehearse my sentences in my head before speaking. But this time, I spoke without hesitation, and the waiter understood me perfectly. It might seem like a small thing, but for me, it was a big achievement. The real moment of realization came when I had to give a presentation in English at work. It was a big challenge because I had never spoken in front of a group of people in English before. I spent days preparing, writing down my key points, and practicing my speech. When the day came, I stood in front of the audience, my heart racing. But as I started to speak, something amazing happened. I felt calm and confident. The words came out smoothly, and I didn't stumble or struggle. The audience was engaged, nodding and smiling as I spoke. After the presentation, I received so many compliments. My boss even said, "Your English was excellent. You explained everything so clearly." That moment was a turning point for me. I realized that I was no longer just learning English, I was living it. How fluency changed my life. Becoming fluent in English has completely transformed my life. It opened doors to opportunities I never thought were possible and gave me a confidence that I carry with me every day.